So in this workflow, we're doing a two-way inventory sync between two separate Shopify stores. So maybe you have a retail store and a wholesale store, something like that. And we're assuming that your locations match up there by name and that your SKUs match up. So that's how we're gonna look things up in order to sync, because your IDs for locations, products, variants are all gonna be different in each different store. All right, so let's go ahead and, so there's two workflows. There's one workflow that sends the inventory changes, and then there's one workflow that receives the inventory changes and applies them. So let's go ahead and get this installed. Now the little message it's going to show here in the corner, which I was blocking with my video, is going to say 2 new workflows installed. Since there was 2 separate workflows, it's not going to take you right into the template install. You got to just click in. So these are the 2 new workflows, and let's set up the send changes workflow from this account. Now the first thing it's going to ask for is this webhook URL. So in order to get that, you're going to have to install over here. You're going to have to install the template here on this other account. That's that beautiful message. And all right, let's set up the receive workflow here. So we've got this workflow receive trigger, and you can copy that URL, paste it in here. And that's pretty much it. We're running on a schedule. Shopify does have real-time webhooks for inventory, but the problem is that they're not reliable. They can come late, they cannot come at all. So for something as critical as an inventory sync, you want to do it on a schedule to make sure everything is going to be reliable there. So let's go ahead and run that. Now it's going to run on hourly schedule, and then it's going to look for changes that were made in the last hour. So if you don't have any changes made in the last hour from an order or an inventory changing like that, it won't pull anything up. I had made this one change just recently, so it's pulling it up and it's saving that to the database here. So let's look at that. Here's this little query that can be helpful for just easily viewing the relevant columns in the database here. That's also referenced in the blog post, this query if you want to use it. So what happened here is that it picked those up and it said no change. The status on those, there's no change. It's only looking for changes to send across. So that's why that does that. And then when you very first run it, it's gonna set a status of initial level. When you first run it, it'll look like that. And then let's go ahead and change one of these levels again. And this time it did find a delta. Delta is just a nerdy word for change. So it found that. And then this is where it's triggering that webhook over to the other store. It's also updating the data on our side. So it found the change and then it sent it to the other store. So here's that +1 delta that it sent to the other store. So let's pop over to the other store and let's look at that receive changes webhook. And here's that ping that was sent, but because it was disabled, it didn't actually run, but we can also just replay that manually. All right, so it found the product by SKU, it found the location by name, and then it adjusted the inventory level on our side. And the inventory levels are different because this is not great as a demo, because they started at different levels and it's only sending across the changes. So if you start them, so one of the things you'll have to look at is what your current state of inventory is between them, and you might need to get them manually synced up before you enable this. Because the reason why we don't send the absolute inventory level is that there could be then conflicts between them. So that's why we're setting the changes across. Okay, but it made that change and then it recorded it as well over here. So the status is applied the change from this other store. And yeah, and then you can as well set up the same thing in the other direction. You can set up the send changes from this store to the other store, set up the receive changes on this store, and then you got your two-way sync going. So if you need any help setting that up, feel free to let us know, and hope that helps.